What's good, everybody? It's Stories here, and today we're going to be talking about Friday Night Smackdown. Now, this Smackdown took place on December 2nd, 2022, live from Buffalo, New York. And outside of the main event, this show really wasn't that exciting, so we'll get into the main event later. But starting off, we have Sami Zayn, the Usos, and Solo Sikoa coming out. No Roman Reigns on this show tonight, so it's just those four members of the Bloodline. So they come out, they're excited about their win at War Games. Jimmy Uso calls Sami Zayn the MVP, and Jey Uso says that Sami Zayn finally earned his respect. This makes Sami Zayn happy, and they do a group handshake in the ring. Sheamus interrupts the Bloodline because him and Sami Zayn have a matchup next. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really interested in this match just due to the fact that I feel like this storyline should be over. Like, War Games is supposed to be the end of everything, but Sami Zayn and Sheamus are still fighting, so it's like, what's really the point? Anyways, late in the match, Sheamus, he attempts a white noise off the second rope, but Sami Zayn counters that into a powerbomb for a 2 count. Sami Zayn, he goes for a Luva kick, but Sheamus finally catches him and hits the white noise. While Sheamus is going for a bro kick, Jimmy Uso gets up on the apron and distracts him, and then everybody on the outside start brawling. The finish of this match was Jimmy Uso was distracting the ref, Jey Uso came in the ring and super kicked Sheamus, and then Sami Zayn won with a pinfall. Like I said, this match really wasn't too interesting to me, but it was a good match in the end. Moving on, we got a Bray Wyatt backstage promo. Bray basically said he's not the one who hurt LA Knight, and that if he was the one who hurt LA Knight, then everybody would have known that it was him, because there would be none of LA Knight left. Moving on to our next match in the show, we got Shayna Baszler versus Emma. Before the match, Emma was backstage, and she wasn't really too confident in herself, so Riddick Moss came up to her and tried to hype her up, and then she eventually gave him a kiss. So it looks like there's going to be a love storyline between Emma and Riddick Moss. There's not really too much to say about this match. I mean, I wasn't really interested in it. Shayna Baszler wins by submission. After the match, Shayna, she continued her attack on Emma, but Shotzi tried to help. That didn't really work out so well for Shotzi, so Raquel Rodriguez came out, and Shayna, she realized that the numbers were too much for her, so she just decided to leave the ring. Before we get to the next match, we have a Lacey Evans vignette of her training with the Marines. Honestly, Lacey Evans, she's not really gonna add that much to the women's division. I mean, she's been on the main roster for like a couple years now, and she hasn't really been that interesting, so we'll see where this goes. Not really much to say about this. Moving on, we got Kofi Kingston versus the Intercontinental Champion Gunther in a non-title match. This match is happening because backstage, Kofi Kingston was being interviewed, and in that interview, he basically announced that he was the first participant in the Men's Royal Rumble match before being interrupted by Imperium. Imperium said that Kofi Kingston and the New Day were a joke. Oh, and by the way, Xavier Woods was not on this show tonight, so it's just Kofi Kingston by himself. Imperium said that the New Day were a joke, so that led Kofi Kingston to challenging one of them to a match, and Gunther accepted it. Anyways, this match started off all Gunther. He got most of the offense in. When Kofi Kingston was finally about to get some offense in, Ludwig Kaiser tripped him up. This led to Braun Strowman coming out, and he basically got rid of Imperium from ringside. So now it's Kofi Kingston versus Gunther in a one-on-one match. No Imperium, no Braun Strowman at ringside. Before the commercial break, Kofi Kingston, he had a SOS on Gunther. That got a 2 count. When we came back from commercial break, Kofi Kingston, he made a little comeback. He had a splash on Gunther, but in the end, Gunther, he had a powerbomb for a 2 count, and then he also debuted a new finisher called The Last Symphony, and Gunther picked up the win. Next up, we got a backstage segment with the Bloodline. So Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa, they leave to get food, and the Usos are basically discussing Sami Zayn. Jimmy Uso tells Jey that he can't believe Sami Zayn is in the Bloodline, and Jey Uso's like he can't believe it either. But in the end, Jey Uso says that he trusts Sami Zayn because so does Roman. So while the Usos are talking, Sheamus comes out of nowhere and he attacks the Usos. Sheamus lays both the Usos out, and he says that him and McIntyre will be waiting for a tag team title match if they can make it past their title defense on Monday. And later in the show, we also find out that that match is confirmed to take place next week on Friday. So whoever wins on Monday between the Usos and Elias and Matt Riddle will take on Sheamus and Drew McIntyre for the tag team championships next Friday. Next up in the show, we got a Damage Control promo, and they talk about their match at War Games. Bayley says that nobody on the SmackDown roster stepped up to War Games, and that makes the women's division look weak. I'm not gonna lie, she's not lying, because the SmackDown women's division is pretty weak. I mean, there's nobody really there that's interesting, to be honest. So Liv Morgan, she comes out and she takes offense to what Bayley said, and to be honest, Liv Morgan's not really that interesting herself. Like, I know a lot of people like her, but she's not really that good, so it is what it is. She attacks Damage Control, but the numbers are too much for her. Damage Control ended up beating her up, so Tegan Nox returns, and honestly, this was not interesting at all. I like Tegan Nox, she was cool in NXT, but this return just wasn't interesting at all to me. The way they executed this just didn't come off right. So she helped out Liv Morgan, but the numbers were still too much for her, and then Liv Morgan came back with a kendo stick to even the odds. So Liv Morgan and Tegan Nox stand over Damage Control in the end. Moving on, finally we got the main event of SmackDown, and like I said, this was the most interesting thing on the show. Santos Escobar versus versus Ricochet in the finals of the SmackDown World Cup tournament. And the winner of this match not only wins the World Cup tournament, but they also get future title opportunity against Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Before we get there though, Karrion Kross, he has a vignette and he talks about how he laid waste to Drew McIntyre and everybody else before him, and he has his eyes set on Rey Mysterio next. So that is actually a match that's interesting to me, Karrion Kross versus Rey Mysterio. I can't wait to see that. But moving back to the main event, at the beginning of this match, the referee ejects everybody from ringside from Legado del Fantasma, even Zelina Vega, after one of the members pushes Ricochet off the top rope. And this match was a really good match. Santos Escobar, he hit a high impact suicide dive on Ricochet. There was a spot in this match where Ricochet and Santos Escobar were standing on the top of the barricade, and then Escobar hit a Hurricane Rana off the barricade. That looked cool. Escobar and Ricochet ended up trading big moves, but in the end, Ricochet, he won with a 630 splash, and he is the winner of the SmackDown World Cup tournament and also the #1 contender for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship, which we found out will take place in 2 weeks. Like I said, this main event was the best thing on the show. There's not really too much to talk about because the show just wasn't that interesting. The Royal Rumble doesn't take place until the end of January, so these next couple weeks of shows are probably going to be uninteresting to say the least until they start building for the Royal Rumble. So anyways guys, that was my thoughts on SmackDown. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like, and I'm out.